right. Well, welcome in everybody to another episode of the Brett Allan Show. I'm very excited about our guest today. These conversations are always so much fun. Talking to folks who are part of the reality television world and just getting to know them on a more personal level. I think what we see on television is obviously television, but getting to know them individualistically is also fun. We have Earl Thompson, Earl the Pearl from Love Hotel on Bravo. Your episodes were really good, and I'm thankful that we have a chance to talk. It's so fun. Thank you for your time, sir. It's a pleasure to meet you, and thanks for hanging out on a Saturday. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Great to meet you.
Yeah, great to meet you. Well, congratulations, of course. This was a fun season for sure. And as always, filled with ups and downs and all of those things in between. So, with what you can discuss, let's just talk about your experience on the show. What was that like for you? And what was the impetus or the interest in becoming involved and turning your life over to the American public, so to speak?
Well, I wasn't I never heard of a show like this before, so I've seen other dating shows, but I wasn't really familiar with Bravo. So a friend of mine thought it'd be a good idea if I applied, and I wasn't interested when she explained it to me. I just, my life's pretty busy. So, but she hounded me for about a week, and then I decided to finally put up an application and some pictures. And about a month later, I was selected for the show, which shocked me. And even then, I didn't want to do it because it was scary, right? And but my friends all came around me and said, "It's once in a lifetime opportunity. It's something you'll never forget, and you're going to be in Cabo, right? Come on,
Yeah,
Cabo,
I mean that should be the selling point right there.
right there, right there, yeah." So my experience on the show was amazing. Um, I thought it was really interesting. My background's in counseling and behavior and so forth. So
Hmm.
I found it interesting how things could blow up pretty quickly in that kind of pressure cooker dating environment and how to de escalate it. And just by being honest and real. And I had to do that a few times, as you probably saw. So and it all comes from the heart. You could see someone that's upset, and you're like, man, I didn't mean to cause anyone to get upset. We're in Cabo in this beautiful hotel, and I didn't mean to upset anybody, but you can see why it might happen. Because you got a bunch of guys all vying for only four girls. And it's not the easiest thing to be involved in, but especially when more guys keep coming, you think you can take a break, and then the next thing you know, here's another eight guys. So it was really an interesting learning experience for me too, and I met some fantastic people, the crew, the producers, the executive producers, and the women and the guys. I mean, who could ask for more? It was really an amazing experience.
Yeah, do you keep in contact with anybody? Obviously, your situation didn't necessarily turn out the way that maybe fans had hoped or wanted, but do you keep in touch with people, or maybe do you continue with the television reality circuit? Because it feels like a lot of these folks sort of, and with Kelly, obviously your publicist for this, we've had lots of people on from all these different shows. So who knows what's next, right? I mean, you could wind up on something else.
Right.
Hey, a fan favorite, Earl the Pearl Thompson is back, which is a cool nickname to have monikered, by the way. I think that's pretty
Thank you.
cool. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I didn't expect any of this. I was really living in the moment, and I'm the kind of guy that takes it day by day. And I kept getting a lot of great feedback from the fans and so forth. And then I started doing a few podcasts, and then I met Adrienne with Kelly, and they saw something in me. And so I'm not sure really where it's all going to go, but I do keep in contact with a lot of the guys. This week, I think I communicated with six of them. the ladies are busy, they're filming, so no, there's really not much contact there. I hear things through the guys who are in their area and might see them and go out to dinner or something. Like, I'm really close to James on the show. I love my life, James, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I
he's,
love my life. I'm blessed.
and that is totally him in real life too. So
Really? Okay.
it is. He just exudes happiness all the time.
I'm the
So,
same way. I feel like I'm 50, so between you and him, I feel like I connected with the most as far as like personalities go. But it's interesting because when I watch these shows, a lot of these men and women too, mostly, are in that range of 50. And so I look at you and I go, man, I wonder what my life would be like. I always tease with Kelly, you know, I think it would be interesting to do it. And she's like, you would be really good on one of these, shows. And I'm like, I don't know, it just seems like so much stress. I mean, living life and dating is, hard enough anyway. So I can't envision having television producers and these storylines that are trying to be pushed to happen. So overall, I mean, it was an interesting experience, I'm sure. What are some things that you feel like that you learned about yourself being on that show that you maybe didn't recognize before that would be indicators or things that are important to bring into another relationship, or even not just with a woman but just people in general? You alluded to the fact about being a counselor and having to de-escalate things, but maybe some ideas or something that has changed you that might make you feel the better when you go into something else later with people.
well, I mean, that's a great question.
Thank you.
It kind of reminded me of things like not everyone's perfect for each other, right?
Mm.
And I think people can either bring out the best in you or bring out the worst in you. And we all have those sides. So my late wife, she brought out the absolute best in me. I mean, literally, we were together 7 years, and we might have gotten uh, to the point where we didn't like each other very much for an hour or so, like 4 times in 7 years. Okay. Arguing wise, we just didn't argue. We had one fight where she slept downstairs, I slept upstairs. We came down the next morning and said, that'll never happen again, shed some tears, and it never did. So I think one of the things it reminded me is that how you could have triggers that lay dormant for a long time,
Mm.
prior relationship. And then you meet someone who can hit one of those triggers and it's right there in front of you again. And you thought you had it solved, but it's there. It's always there. And that came through full throttle for me on the show, right? I mean, things popped out of my mouth that I would have never thought would ever pop out of my mouth. I mean, sometimes you look at me like you want to slap me, right? I mean, where'd that come from? And but also knowing how to take responsibility for things that come out of your mouth and triggers or landmines, and don't don't get defensive. Just throw it out there and say, hey, look, here's my role in this, and I take full responsibility. It's like, taking one for the team, but you're being honest because you had a part in that situation. And I think we could all learn from that. And I think there's several lessons in this show that couples should be talking about, like that. How do you handle conflict? There's a way to handle it destructively, and then there's a way to handle it in a healthy manner. So I hope people took, you know, especially guys. Guys aren't great at saying, I'm wrong, and here's the reasons why I'm wrong.
Right.
Hopefully that gives guys something to think about.
It's interesting you mentioned with your experience in counseling and witness preparation and sort of helping people get to deal with things. Those triggers are very interesting things to mention because it is true. Like you feel like you dealt with things, but then all of a sudden, like somebody says something and it comes up and you're like, holy mackerel, I
Right.
didn't think about that. And then it just sort of slips out.
Right.
Like when those things happen, particularly in front of all these people watching you on television and crew, other cast members in the show, like when you realize those things in the moment, like obviously they take time to fix, but like how do you process it even in the moment and are able to keep going versus like having to stop and go, oh my God, I can't believe this is still an issue. I thought this was something that I dealt with, a long time ago.
Yeah, I think, well, at least for me, when you care about somebody, and I care about Shannon, and I saw her hurting, I automatically go to what part did I cause in this, and I need to convey that to her right
Mm-hmm.
away. Because that can really decompress the situation, de-escalate,
Yeah.
and um, and one thing I learned also is just because I think it's solved at that point, the next thing I say blows it up again. I mean, she wasn't over it yet, right? So that was one of those things where I thought, I throw out a comment like, yeah, the vegetable thing was stupid, and then she took it as me saying she was stupid, and man, that was the farthest thing from my mind, right? I didn't want to insult her again, right? But when somebody is really at that height of sensitivity, your perception is a little different.
Mm.
And so you, as a guy, you got to recognize that and know not to push it. Okay. Let it sink in the words you're saying to the person, look them straight in the eye and really convey what your responsibility was in it. And then let it just sit. And you can let it just breathe there without trying to go on to the next subject. So that's, it's just one of those things that I think is important when you're in a very difficult argument or discussion to make the other person feel less defensive.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. And I think too, probably generally as men, we like to just fix it and move along, so to
Oh yeah,
speak.
oh yeah, we're really good at that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And being a parent too, I have a 10-year-old who's very sensitive and feral in his emotions. So even then, I have to be extremely careful because I've dealt with it, but it's something that he holds on to for a very long time sometimes. So it's interesting. So, what do friends and family think of all of this? Like, what has the response been from them about their person and their life going on national television and exposing themselves, and opening their soul to the world? That's huge.
yeah. Well, first, let me tell you that it was exceptionally hard for me to watch the episodes. Okay.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah, there were eight. The first one I watched with my neighbors, and then I didn't watch any again until the finale with other people. Okay,
Really?
literally, I had an ache in my stomach before the show came on, and then for a few days following the show, the episode, because seeing yourself and seeing you very emotional, vulnerable, raw, and then seeing what people were saying behind the scenes, that was really hard. But my family and friends, I mean, it's been amazing. I mean, I I had buddies from college in my frat that I hadn't talked to in 30 years that did a group text talking about the episodes, right? I had people reach back into my life that I hadn't heard from in a long time, which is so special. Then, meeting people from different countries who are writing me. I went to two parties over the 4th of July. I walked at two lake houses. I walk in and there's like 60 people there. They all start screaming, Earl the Pearl, It's the first time they saw me since the show's finale. And that happened the next party one day later, a whole different group of people. It's just the love you get from people and the respect because the thing I'm hearing over and over again is they said, man, you were so authentic. How did you do that? And I'm like, the cameras disappeared very quickly for me. And I was just me. And I had to be there for the guys for what they were going through. Then I was there for the girls and what they were going through in their personal lives. And so you didn't get to see much of that at all. But I mean, I was kind of the resident, are you okay guy, right? And I had some guys who came through for me too when I wasn't looking okay. So it went both ways.
So, a couple last questions here. So, when you're filming this, obviously you're in the moment. It's very heightened situations. You I mean, it is real, but it is television, so there are producers and people who are helping drive these storylines. And were you one that was picked out right away, that they thought, okay, this person is somebody that we find the most interesting? Because you do have a lot of camera time. If that question makes sense, like sometimes there's a lot of people there, but there are specific ones that rise up. Obviously, you were one of those. Did you know that was going to be the case when you got there? Like, okay, these people are going to really be watching me, so I want to give them the most authentic of myself as I possibly can.
No, that never crossed my mind. Actually, when I got there, and if you see how I'm interacting, I'm kind of in the background, and I'd come and say something funny and kind of get back in the background and let the other guys have their chance and stuff. I thought all the guys were really quality men. And I didn't know who the women were we were going to meet. And then when we met them, I knew that I wanted to sit back and watch what was happening. Okay.
Right.
And that's always worked well for me, not just jump in. And then I selectively started talking to the women and trying to get to know them, or at least listening to their conversation with somebody else and kind of be in the background again. Um, so yeah, I think overall I noticed that I was getting a lot of screen time. And I didn't know if other guys were at all, and we didn't really talk about that, but I noticed that when Shannon and I were together, there'd be a lot of cameras, right? Like the majority of the cameras. But again, when you're talking to someone and looking in their eyes, you don't see any of that. You're just in the moment with the person. And that's one of my strengths, I think. And that's why the cameras disappeared so quickly for me. I never felt like I was, first of all, they never told me what to say. They never pushed me in a certain direction. You know, the guys once in a while would say, "Hey, she's over here," and I go, "Okay, thanks," and I'd go. But I mean, literally for me, I never had any of that. So what you see on camera is just my normal self. And people that have met me after the show and talked to me, they're like, "You're exactly like you were on the
Yeah, I was
show."
gonna
I'm like,
say it's very true.
"Well, thank you, I appreciate that." But I mean, I don't get a big head. I work with people with disabilities who and injuries who have had fantastic careers, live in big houses, and then one piece of metal flies in their eye as a neurosurgeon. They lose everything. Their wife leaves them. They have to downsize. So I know how fragile success can be and how fragile life can be. And so I just live it one day at a time. And of course, my wife passed away from leukemia. So I've had a lot of experiences, I think, that put me in a good position for this show where I could just be myself and share some things about me, which would allow other people to open up as well. And that was pretty clear on the show.
Yeah, well, your philanthropic work is amazing too. I think that's what makes you you, outside of the things we see on television. So one last question, you do all of this. How long does it take you to come down from all of this and just level out again and continue to live your normal life, outside of the newfound profile exposure of your life, before, you were you, but now people know you from this show. How are you adjusting? Is life just go back to normal for you? How does that work, to where you can start being normal again, which you seem that way now, but is there a process, I guess?
No, I mean, I love meeting new people. I always have been. I've always been pretty extroverted. So when people come in and they want to take or see me and they recognize me and they want to take a picture, I think that's awesome. I talk to them, I let them know my Instagram thing, and some I've actually given my phone number to, and we've talked and we've become very good friends.
That's
Okay,
cool.
from all over the place, which is really fun. So I don't really have now that the show's over. When the show is on, I needed a few days after each episode. Literally, I was like the cliffhanger, I think 5 or 6 times, I guess, something like that. So I was sweating every time and I knew I couldn't tell anybody. And that's the hardest thing, when you made it to the end and you're the only one that really dated anyone after the show for a significant amount of time and you can't share that with anybody, that's pretty tough. So overall, I'm just me. And so it doesn't impact me a lot. anymore. It makes me blush. It makes me smile. I feel blessed that people want to get to know me. And I think it gives me a platform to talk about some things that are sensitive subjects. So I'm going to do more live videos. There's talks about doing a podcast. I don't think it would be revolve around like reality TV, but that would be a part of it. It would be mostly like talking about issues that either guys or couples or, people with injuries have, and try to give them advice and let them be able to get it out of their system so that it has some type of cathartic effect.
Yes. Well, congratulations. You made it out on the other side.
Yeah.
And a fan favorite for sure. If people haven't watched it, the episodes are now available on Bravo. And I mean, that's the home for these types of fun shows. This was really cool. I enjoyed watching it. I binged it. And, it's so fun to meet, again, as I said at the beginning of our conversation, people who have been on these shows and get to know them and realize this person is really who you saw on TV and not some persona, I guess you could say. and
Yeah, I could see why people would actually think maybe, and I've gotten a lot of responses like he can't be real, right? Um, but we were being real, and so I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, it's very true. Well, congratulations on all the newfound success. And yeah, this is a lot of fun. If people want to get in touch with you either about the show or the philanthropic work that you do, what are people, or how, or what are ways people to connect with you, Earl?
Yeah, so the name of my company is Integrity Rehabilitation and Testing out of Lawrenceville, Georgia, and they can look me up, Google it online. My Instagram and TikTok, I think, is Earl the Pearl 35. I kept it pretty simple. 35 was my softball number for the big herd in Chicago White Sox history, so that's where that comes in from. So Earl the Pearl 35.
I love it. Well, congratulations and thanks for spending time with us on a Saturday. This was a lot of fun and this will air pretty immediately. So thank you, Earl, for your time and congratulations on everything. I appreciate you hanging out today.
Great meeting you, Brett. You have a fantastic weekend.
You too.